You know, you walk into your local grocery store, you reach for your favorite brand of coffee, and you just expect this static perfection.
Yeah, it's just always there.
Right. But behind that pristine shelf is this frantic, high-speed, algorithmic ballet of global supply and demand.
Oh, absolutely. It's wildly complex.
And Johan Steyn argues in his recent article that in the fast-moving consumer goods sector, FMCG, the window to just like dabble in AI is rapidly closing.
Yeah, it's a critical threshold right now.
Yeah.
Steyn is basically pointing out that FMCG companies are transitioning from treating artificial intelligence as a novelty.
Like a shiny new toy.
Exactly, to recognizing it as the core operating system of the entire enterprise.
Well, welcome to the deep dive. We are thrilled you're joining us today.
I'm glad to be here with you.
Our mission today is to unpack Steyn's piece, which is titled FMCG's AI Moment, Implement Now or Compete Later from Behind.
It's a great piece.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because FMCG has always been a game of tempo. I mean, it is the complex art of getting the right product to the right shelf at the right price with the right promotional message.
Yeah, and speed is everything.
Right. And Stone's central thesis is that AI is drastically compressing the decision cycles across that entire spectrum.
Which is exactly why this matters immensely to you, the listener. Because whether you are managing a team or studying market trends or just insanely curious about how the goods in your pantry actually get there.
Which is fascinating on its own.
It really is. Understanding this shift is just crucial. We are moving past the era of simply, buying a tool. It's an organizational redesign moment.
That brings us to a major point of friction, though, because my instinct, and probably the instinct of any executive guarding a budget, is to just wait.
Sure, the wait-and-see approach.
Exactly. Technology historically gets cheaper, it gets more user-friendly over time, so why not let the early adopters absorb the massive R&D costs, work out all the bugs, and then, just buy a mature, affordable AI system 2 years from now?
Well, because treating AI like a traditional IT system fundamentally misunderstands the technology.
How so?
Steyn frames this beautifully. He breaks AI advantage down into 3 compounding waves.
Okay.
So the first wave is automation. That's using algorithms to speed up routine data analysis. And that is just your baseline entry ticket. You can basically buy your way into wave 1 at any time.
Right. If I buy a better software system next year, I catch up on the tech. But Steyn says late adopters don't just miss the tools, they miss the learning curve. What does that actually mean in practice?
So that's the catch. That's wave 2, which Steyn calls better decisions.
Okay, I see this kind of like the difference between compounding interest in a bank account versus compounding learning.
That's a great analogy.
Because if I upgrade a legacy database next year, I catch up on storage capacity immediately.
Yep.
But with AI, Steyn says wave 2 means the system is actively measuring outcomes, right? It's refining its predictive models based on proprietary company data.
Exactly. It's building reusable workflows over time. The machine learning models literally adapt to the unique idiosyncrasies of your specific supply chain.
Wow.
Yeah, and your customer base. So the AI from year 2 is objectively more capable and tailored than the AI from year 1.
Because it's processed millions of real-world interactions.
Right. You cannot buy that historical context off the shelf.
So you can't just skip the line.
No, you can't. And then you hit the third wave, which Steyn identifies as cultural change.
Cultural change, meaning what exactly?
This is where the organization stops thinking deterministically, like simply saying, ship 100 units to Chicago, and starts thinking probabilistically.
Oh, interesting.
Teams naturally begin to run rapid continuous simulations, so they might pre-position inventory based on a 78% probability of a demand spike.
Right, they're playing the odds based on the data.
Exactly. So imagine 2 competitors. Company A is riding that third wave. Their culture expects constant experimentation, their proprietary models are highly refined, and their workflows are fully integrated.
Okay, and Company B?
Company B decides the technology is finally cheap enough and buys their first enterprise AI license.
But they're too late.
Right. Company B isn't just behind on software. They are facing a permanent deficit in what Steyn calls operating muscle.
Operating muscle, I like that.
Yeah, they lack the years of systemic learning and cultural adaptation that Company A has already banked.
That deficit makes total sense. But let me push back on the implementation strategy for a second.
Sure.
Because surely an enterprise-wide rollout is insanely risky for, say, A mid-market FMCG
That
company.
sounds risky, yeah.
Right. Wait, if the goal is to move fast, isn't it safer to just run a small, isolated pilot program?
Oh, yeah.
Say, having the marketing team test generative AI for ad copy just to see if it works before changing the whole company.
Well, that cautious, localized approach is precisely what Steyn warns against.
Really?
Yeah, because FMCG is fundamentally an interconnected ecosystem.
Hmm.
If you optimize one variable without touching the dependent variables, you don't get efficiency. You generate localized chaos.
Okay, I can actually see how that plays out. Left
Yeah.
click at demand forecasting.
Okay, let's do it.
If you deploy an advanced AI pilot that predicts consumer purchasing perfectly, right? But your legacy replenishment supply chain, the physical warehouses, the trucking routes remains unchanged, the AI is
Oh,
useless.
it's worse than useless.
You just perfectly predict your own failure.
Exactly. You predict the failure, and because the physical supply chain can't dynamically reroute to prevent it, you still pay the logistics overhead for trucks that arrive to service misaligned inventory. You just get empty shelves faster.
Oh, wow. That's a disaster.
Or consider promotional optimization. Let's say your marketing unit uses an isolated AI tool to perfectly time a viral campaign,
Okay.
and demand spikes exactly as modeled, but your supply side lacks the visibility to ramp up production simultaneously.
Then you've actively destroyed value.
You've wasted your marketing spend. The customer arrives at an empty shelf, and you essentially paid to drive them to a competitor's product.
That is brutal. And Steyn extends this to brand governance too,
He
right?
does.
Like, if you generate marketing content at 10 times the speed, but you have weak brand governance, you just create market noise.
Exactly. Steyn cites a very telling piece from Tech Central in South Africa about this exact pitfall.
What did they say?
The article warns that AI complexity is crippling IT departments. When different business units independently procure their own narrow AI tools, they create a fractured architecture.
So fragmentation, basically.
Right, the marketing AI cannot communicate with the logistics AI. Data remains siloed in different formats.
So the enterprise creates massive complexity rather than compounding value.
Exactly. Stan emphasizes that AI is a systems upgrade, not a departmental one.
That fear of fragmentation is probably what's driving these massive integration deals we're seeing. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Because AI isn't just a back office IT thing anymore. It's everywhere. The global FMCG giants are bypassing these localized pilots entirely. Stan highlights Unilever's recent announcement.
Right, the massive 5-year partnership with Google Cloud,
Yes, Unilever isn't just buying server space. They are building what they call agentic workflows into their core enterprise architecture.
which is huge. That signals AI is enterprise infrastructure, not a side project.
And when I saw that phrase, agentic workflows, it really stood out. Because we are no longer talking about passive dashboards that just spit out predictive analytics for a human to read.
No, not at all.
We are talking about autonomous systems. An AI agent doesn't just flag a potential supply shortage. It actively integrates with legacy software, drafts the purchase order, and triggers the shipping manifest.
All within predefined parameters. The AI operates as an independent actor within the ecosystem.
It's wild, and it goes beyond logistics, too. Like, Stan points to a CIO.com profile on Nestle.
Oh, the recipe formulation.
Yes, they are utilizing AI not just for forecasting, but for actual physical recipes and sustainability initiatives.
Which is fascinating because traditional recipe formulation is incredibly slow. It involves months of R&D, human taste testing, manual cost analysis.
But Nestle's AI systems can simulate millions of formulations in milliseconds.
Right. It analyzes chemical flavor compounds, cross-references them with real-time commodity prices, and factors in localized consumer taste data.
So it optimizes the physical product for both palate and profit margin before a single prototype is even mixed in a kitchen.
Exactly. And that same level of complex modeling is happening on the consumer-facing side.
Right, Steyn mentions Procter & Gamble.
Yeah, P&G leadership there explicitly prioritizes data and AI to tackle today's highly fragmented new media environment.
Because media fragmentation is one of the hardest math problems in FMCG right now.
Oh, without a doubt. The degradation of third-party identifiers and the explosion of new digital platforms mean you can't rely on simple metrics anymore.
Right, you don't know if an ad worked.
Exactly. So P&G uses AI to build massive probabilistic models of consumer behavior. It dictates everything from product innovation to campaign effectiveness.
Okay, so if the legacy giants are fundamentally changing how they operate, installing agentic workflows, algorithmic recipes, probabilistic media, modeling what happens to the people actually doing the work.
Yeah, we have to transition to the human impact. It's the elephant in the room.
Steyn is very blunt here, isn't he?
Very. He explicitly says leaders shouldn't promise that AI won't change jobs. The fundamental nature of white-collar FMCG work is transforming.
I kind of like in this shift to moving from being the person drafting an essay to being the editor who checks the facts and shapes the narrative.
That's a really good way to put it.
So what does the new FMCG job actually look like, say, for entry or mid-level roles like category management or demand planning?
Well, what shrinks is the routine reporting and the first draft analysis. The days of manually pulling data from 6 different spreadsheets to draft a baseline forecast, those are over.
Because the system generates the baseline instantly.
Exactly. So the manual drafting shrinks to near zero. What grows is the premium on human judgment.
Exception handling.
Right. The AI agent seamlessly manages the predictable 95% of the supply chain volume. The human operator's job is to intervene in the complex, ambiguous 5%.
The anomalies.
Yeah, sudden geopolitical supply shocks, unprecedented market shifts, cross-functional coordination, things historical data can't account for.
It elevates the human to a scenario planner.
Exactly. But it demands a massive upskilling initiative.
And implementing this isn't just a hurdle for companies in, like, North America or Europe. Steyn brings a crucial global perspective into the article, too.
He does, yeah. He references an IT News Africa piece about the realities of FMCG in emerging markets.
Right, because data and AI will transform Africa's FMCG market, but it raises immediate questions about infrastructure and data access.
It's a fascinating constraint. The potential for AI to optimize supply chains there is staggering, but you crash into the reality of uneven infrastructure.
How do you build an interconnected AI model for demand forecasting when a massive percentage of the trade happens in the informal economy?
You really can't. You have spaza shops in South Africa or massive open-air markets in Nigeria where point-of-sale data simply isn't digitized.
The data is unstructured. Text messages, WhatsApp orders, handwritten receipts.
And that is the exact friction point Steyn is highlighting. If your agentic workflows require a perfectly standardized flow of clean data, uneven regional infrastructure breaks the system.
You can't deploy advanced AI on a fractured foundation.
Right. So Steyn's final directive to leaders is build governance early, especially in regions with uneven data access.
Before you can achieve the systemic AI integration we saw with Unilever, you must solve the standardization problem.
Governance isn't bureaucratic red tape here. It is the prerequisite for the technology to even function.
Okay, so what does this all mean? Let's synthesize this for you, the listener.
Let's do it.
The ultimate lesson from Johan Steyn's work is that winning brands won't be the ones with the most localized pilots.
Not at all.
They will be the ones who embed AI into how work actually gets done. Leaders must focus on enterprise wins, deliberate workforce transition, and early governance.
Which leaves us with a final, highly provocative thought to mull over.
Oh, I'm ready.
Steyn notes that AI advantage compounds through continuous learning, not through software licensing, right?
Right.
If an organization's ultimate competitive moat is now its speed of learning rather than its historical brand dominance, will the FMCG giants of tomorrow be completely different companies?
Oh, wow.
Or just the legacy ones that manage to mutate their operating DNA in time?
The clock is ticking on that mutation.
It really is.
The next time you walk down that grocery store aisle and reach for that product, look past the packaging,
Yeah.
you are looking at the physical output of a system that is actively learning and evolving in real time.
The whole new world.
It really is. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the underlying mechanics of the world around you, and we will catch you next time.